General Cleverness. How Mikhail Katakov stopped Guderian's tanks and opened the road to Berlin. Hey everyone, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and drop your thoughts in the comment below. Get ready for an epic tale that'll blow your mind. A story of grit, cunning, and one man's journey to outsmart a Nazi tank legend and pave the way to Berlin. This is the story of Mikhail Katakov, the guy they called General Cleverness, who stopped Heinz Guderian's blitzkrieg dead in its tracks. Picture this. It's October 1941, and the world is at war. Nazi Germany's tanks, led by the fearsome Heinz Guderian, are tearing through Soviet territory, aiming straight for Moscow. Guderian's 24th Motorized Corps has just stormed into Oriol, crushing everything in its path. The Nazis are riding high, thinking the road to the Soviet capital is wide open. Panic spreads through the retreating Red Army, their resources stretched thin, their morale battered. But in a small town called Kubinka, near Moscow, amid the roar of engines and the clatter of tank treads, one man steps up to change the course of history. Mikhail Katakov, a brigade commander at the time, gets a direct order: stop the enemy at all costs. His boss, Yakov Fedorenko, head of the Red Army's tank division, tells him, "They'll come at you with numbers, but you hit them with smarts." And that's exactly what Katukov does. Near the town of Mtsensk, in the fields of Tula Oblast, Katukov pulls off a masterclass in military cunning. His T-34 tanks, hidden in ambushes like wolves in the woods, strike with deadly precision. Over 100 Nazi tanks are reduced to smoking wrecks. Guderian, nicknamed Fast Heinz for his lightning-fast offensives, hits a wall for the first time. His blitzkrieg starts to crumble, and Katukov, he earns the nickname General Cleverness, long before he's officially promoted to general. Who was Mikhail Katakov? Let's rewind and get to know the man who took on one of the Nazis' top tank commanders. Mikhail Katakov was born in 1900 in a humble peasant family in a village near Kolomna, Russia. Life wasn't easy for young Mikhail. After losing his mother, he headed to St. Petersburg, working as a milk delivery boy, sleeping on a chest in a shop to make ends meet. When his mother passed, he returned to his village, but destiny had bigger plans. In 1919, at the age of 19, Katukov was drafted into the Red Army. He started as a regular soldier, then rose to command a reconnaissance platoon. The Russian Civil War toughened him up. He saw destruction, famine, and chaos, but never lost hope. Later, he attended infantry courses in the Academy of Mechanization and Motorization, transforming himself from a foot soldier into one of the Soviet Union's sharpest tank commanders. A self-taught tank genius, he trained thousands of soldiers who would later fight on the front lines of World War II. The first battles, lessons from Mtsensk. When World War II broke out, Katukov's division wasn't exactly armed to the teeth. They had outdated training tanks, nicknamed tankettes by the troops, that were no match for Germany's sleek panzers. But Katukov made it work. He quickly realized that outgunning the Nazis wasn't an option. Outsmarting them was. Ambushes, quick maneuvers, and surprise attacks became his playbook. That fall of 1941 was Katukov's trial by fire. Mtsensk, his brigade, later the 1st Guards Brigade in the Red Army, showed the world what it could do. The Nazis, used to steamrolling their enemies, walked right into a trap. T-34s, concealed in forests and ravines, used the terrain to their advantage, picking off German tanks with deadly accuracy. Guderian himself wrote in his memoirs that his forces had never faced such fierce resistance. The Nazis lost heaps of tanks, and their confidence took a hit. Why was Mtsensk such a big deal? It wasn't just a single victory. It was a wake-up call. Hitler's blitzkrieg, the strategy that had conquered much of Europe, could be stopped. Katukov proved that even with limited gear, brains could beat brawn. His ambush tactics became a blueprint for other Soviet commanders, and he unknowingly set out on a path that would lead him to Berlin. From Mtsensk to Kursk, Katukov's tank army, By 1942, Katukov was commanding the 1st Tank Corps. His success at Mtsensk and later at Volokholamsk made him a rising star in the Red Army. Soon, he formed the 3rd Mechanized Corps, and by January 1943, he was tasked with building the 1st Tank Army. This wasn't just a promotion, it was a sign of the Soviet High Command's trust in him. Fast forward to the summer of 1943. The Battle of Kursk, one of the biggest tank battles in history. The Nazis unleashed their latest weapons, Panther and Tiger tanks, against Katukov's forces. The losses were staggering. Hundreds of tanks burned, thousands of lives lost. But Katukov's army held the line. They didn't just defend, they counterattacked, wearing down the enemy. Kursk was a turning point in the war, and Katukov's role was crucial. The Lvov-Sandomierz operation, a foothold on the Vistula. By the summer of 1944, the Red Army was on the offensive. In the Lvov-Sandomierz operation, Katukov's guards pulled off a feat that would go down in history. They captured a bridgehead on the Vistula River, a critical stepping stone toward Western Europe. This wasn't just a tactical win, it was a game changer. The Nazis, now on the back foot, couldn't stop the Soviet advance. For this, Katukov was awarded the title of Hero of the Soviet Union. But he wasn't done. His army kept pushing, smashing through German defenses and liberating cities. The Vistula-Oder Offensive, racing to the Baltic. January 1945. The Vistula-Oder Offensive. Katukov's tank army launches a breathtaking advance, covering nearly 600 kilometers. They cross the Oder River, reach the Baltic Sea, and slice through German defenses in Pomerania. This move opens the road to Berlin. Once again, Katukov proves his nickname, using speed, surprise, and clever tactics to keep the Nazis guessing. The final push, Berlin and the Seelow Heights. April 1945, the war's final chapter. The Seelow Heights, a heavily fortified line surrounded by swamps and bunkers, stand between the Red Army and Berlin. The Nazis are desperate, ready to fight to the last man. But Katukov has a plan. He orders his tanks to turn on their headlights at night and move along a railway. The Germans, mistaking them for their own forces, miss their chance to react. By the time they realize their mistake, it's too late. The Soviet tank avalanche breaks through and charges toward Berlin. The Battle of Berlin is Katukov's crowning achievement. His tanks storm the city, crushing the last pockets of resistance. In May 1945, Germany surrenders. Katukov earns his 2nd Hero of the Soviet Union star. Post-war, Katukov continued to serve, commanding tank forces in Germany. In 1959, he was named Marshal of Armored Forces. He passed away in 1976, but his legacy lives on. From a milk delivery boy sleeping on a shop chest to a feared commander who made Guderian sweat, Katukov's journey is nothing short of legendary. His tanks, starting in the fields of Mtsensk, rolled all the way to Berlin, paving the way for victory. Why Katukov's story matters. Mikhail Katukov's story isn't just about tanks and battles. It's about a guy from a small village who changed the world. His tactics, ambushes, maneuvers, thinking outside the box became a model for militaries everywhere. But more than that, it's about believing in your people, your cause, and never giving up. Think about it. What makes a hero? It's not just courage. It's finding solutions when the odds are stacked against you. Katukov showed that even when the enemy has more tanks, you can win with strategy. His story is a reminder that no challenge is too big if you've got the will and the wits. To really grasp Katukov's impact, let's zoom out and look at the economics of World War II. In 1941, the Soviet Union was in dire straits. The Nazis had overrun key industrial regions, wiping out about 70% of the USSR's Western industrial base, according to historians. Factories were moved to the Ural Mountains in Siberia, but it took time to ramp up production. Katukov's forces fought with whatever they had. The T-34, the backbone of Soviet armor, was just started to roll off assembly lines in 1941. That year, the USSR produced about 3,000 tanks, while Germany churned out over 5,000. But commanders like Katukov made every tank count. The Battle of Kursk, where Katukov shone, wasn't just a military turning point. It hit the Nazi economy hard. German records show they lost hundreds of tanks, straining their already stretched war machine. By 1944, the Soviets were producing over 20,000 tanks a year, outpacing Germany's wildest dreams. Operations like Lvov-Sandomierz and Vistula-Oder, led by Katukov, also had economic ripple effects. Liberating territories meant regaining access to resources, factories, and workers. For example, retaking Ukraine brought back the Donbass coal mines, fueling Soviet industry. The fall of Berlin wasn't just a military win. It was a symbol of the USSR's ability to outlast and outproduce the Nazis. Reflections. What Katukov teaches us. Then there's teamwork. Katukov trusted his soldiers, knew their strengths, and used them to the max. In our world, where collaboration drives progress, that's huge. Whether you're leading a startup or planning a community event, believing in your team makes all the difference. And let's not forget resilience. From a milk delivery boy to a marshal, Katukov faced wars, hardship, and impossible odds. His story screams one thing. No matter how dark it gets, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Folks, Mikhail Katukov's story is more than history. It's inspiration. It's about one person making a difference against all odds. Let's take that energy and run with it. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what part of Katukov's journey fired you up, and let's keep the conversation going. Want more stories of World War II heroes? Let us know. Your support keeps these stories alive.